Boys and girls, Benjamin Bok Choy here. The F1 grid for 2025 is almost all but filled with returning drivers and new drivers. In the 2024 offseason, exactly 0 drivers swap seats, a first for Formula 1. Never has there ever been a season where every driver from one season come back for the next season. 2025, however, is almost the complete opposite. Not only did we have huge names change teams before the season even started, we also had 2 drivers get replaced mid-season. Not only that, but we're also seeing 5, possibly 6 drivers who will be getting their first full-time drive, or in the case of Jack Doohan, a 5-race tryout. At the time of this recording, Sergio Perez still holds his seat with Red Bull. However, if rumors are to be believed, current Williams driver Franco Colapinto will be joining the Red Bull family and taking one of their seats in place of the Mexican driver. Considering not all F1 fans follow the junior FIA categories, I figured this would be a good time to introduce you to some of these young drivers and go over their resumes. We will start off with the youngest of the group, Italian driver Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who at the age of 18 years and 203 days once the Australian Grand Prix starts in 2025, will be coming in as the youngest driver to get a Formula 1 seat since Lance Stroll entered the series at 18 years 148 days at the 2017 Australian Grand Prix. Having been a part of the Mercedes Junior program since 2019 and having driven for Prima since 2022, Antonelli has been dominating every junior category he has participated in. In 2022, he won the Italian F4 Championship. In 2023, he won the ADAC F4 Championship, a German series, as well as the Formula Regional European and Formula Regional Middle East Championship. His exploits impressed so much that Prima allowed him to skip F3 and jump straight into F2 for the 2024 season. Currently, he is driving in F2 for Prima, where with 2 races to go in the season, he is sitting 6th in the driver's standings, 56.5 points behind F2 leader Gabriele Bortoleto, who himself has just secured a drive in F1 for 2025. Admittedly, Prima seemed to be having a down year as Antonelli's current F2 teammate and future F1 rival Oliver Bearman has also had a difficult time getting the F2 car into a good working window all season. Shortly before the 2024 F1 Italian Grand Prix at Monza, Mercedes announced that Antonelli would be replacing Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes for 2025, and that he would be running FP1 at Monza the Friday before the race weekend. He promptly went out on track and crashed 10 minutes and 5 laps into his run. However, before the crash, he was setting some impressive lap times. He would get another chance running FP1 at Mexico a few weeks later. Hoping to have a better session than at Monza, he went out on track at Mexico and promptly ran into debris on track, damaging the floor of Hamilton's borrowed W15. This wouldn't deter him though, as Mercedes allowed him to continue with his practice program where he ended up setting the 12th fastest time of the session, 1.202 seconds behind future teammate George Russell. British driver Oliver Bearman's resume reads almost exactly like his current Prima teammate. After dominating in karting, winning multiple national titles since he was 7 years old, Bearman went on to win the Italian F4 Championship and ADAC F4 Championship in 2021 with Van Amersfoort. In 2022, he moved to Prima, teaming with Arthur Leclerc and Jack Crawford for his first and only season in Formula 3, managing to finish 3rd in the driver's standings, just 2 points shy of 2nd and 7 points shy of winning the Drivers' Championship. At the final feature race that year at Monza, with 6 drivers still in contention for the Drivers' Championship, a red flag brought out on lap 17 by Kush Maini and Brad Benavides ultimately saw the race brought to an end with 5 laps left to go. After having moved from P6 up to P2, Bearman looked like he was on a charge to potentially win the race and the championship before the race was stopped, with championship leader Victor Martins carrying a time penalty and eventually demoted to P4. Bearman could have secured a Formula 3 Drivers' Championship had he won the race, but he would never get the opportunity to do so. After the disappointing end to his F3 season, he was promoted to F2 with Prima for 2023, teaming up with Mercedes junior driver Frederik Vesti. It was an up-and-down season in F2 for Bearman, though he did manage to win the sprint race and feature race at Baku, as well as make up for his F3 finale disappointment by winning the feature race at Monza. He finished 6th in the standings with 130 points, 73 points behind Théo Pourchaire, the champion that year. He would return to drive for Prima in F2 for 2024, where he would surprisingly be thrusted into an F1 seat in the second weekend of the F2 calendar after Ferrari driver Carlos Sainz was sidelined with appendicitis. Not expecting much, the F1 world was surprised to see him finish 7th and bring the car home in one piece, becoming the youngest driver to score points on debut. He would be called upon again for FP1 sessions and even 2 more races after Haas driver Kevin Magnussen faced a race ban for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Biermann managed to sneak into a points position right before the race ended to score 1 point, and again replaced the Danish driver at Haas for the Brazilian Grand Prix after Kevin Magnussen felt unwell all weekend. His current standing of 15th place in F2 for the 2024 season has some fans wondering why Haas has decided to go with the British driver over more qualified young drivers, but we will see if he can continue his good run of form in an F1 car and win over fans who were not impressed with his F2 performances. Australian driver Jack Doohan has only just recently been announced as the second driver for Alpine for 2025, though reports are coming out that his contract may only be for 5 races. Whatever the case, he will be in an Alpine car come the start of the 2025 season. After winning multiple karting championships in his native Australia in 2015 and 2016, Doohan joined the Red Bull Junior program in 2018. He would team up with another Red Bull Junior driver in Dennis Hauger for the 2018 British F4 Championship, where he ultimately finished 5th and 1 point behind his teammate. He would also participate in the Italian F4 Series, finishing 20th, and the ADAC F4 Series, finishing 12th, though only on a part-time basis for Prima. He would race for a high-tech GP in the F3 Asian and F3 Asian Winter Championship Series, finishing 2nd in both, though his points and standings were not officially classified as he was a guest driver. The next year, he officially entered the series with Pinnacle Motorsport, where he finished 2nd in the standings. In 2020, he would make the jump to F3 with HWA Race Lab, where he would sadly only finish in 26th for the year. He returned to F3 in 2021 with Trident, where he found more success, taking a win at France and Russia and scoring 2 wins at Spa, which helped him end the season 2nd in the standings. At the end of 2021, he joined the F2 grid for the final 2 races of the season, managing to finish in the points at one of the sprint races in each of the final race weekends. In 2022, Doohan would jump ship to the Alpine Academy and team up with Virtuosi Racing for his first full season in Formula 2. He would earn 2 sprint race wins at Silverstone in Hungary and managed to win the feature race at Spa. Ultimately, he would finish 6th in the standings that year. In 2023, he returned to F2 with Invicta Virtuosi Racing, where he finished 3rd in the driver's standings, finishing 35 points behind champion Théo Pourchaire. Since then, he has been reserve driver for Alpine, eagerly awaiting his chance to prove himself in a Formula 1 car. Brazilian Gabriel Bortoleto is probably the least known of this bunch, though not due to his lack of accolades. In 2020, the 20-year-old drove for Prima in Italian F4, where one of his teammates was 2024 F3 runner-up Gabriele Mini, who won the Italian F4 championship that year. Bortoleto would eventually finish 5th behind both Mini and another teammate in Dino Beganovic. The next year, he joined FA Racing, a subsidiary of MP Motorsport run by Fernando Alonso, for the 2021 Formula Regional European Championship, where he only podiumed 1 time and finished 15th after the 20-race season. This would be the season that Gabriel Bortoleto began a professional relationship with F1 driver Fernando Alonso, who has helped guide and manage Bortoleto's racing career. In 2022, Bortoleto began racing in Formula Regional European Championship for French outfit Race GP, managing to earn 2 wins and finish 6th in the overall standings. He would make the move to FIA Formula 3 in 2023 with Trident, where he took the lead of the Drivers' Championship in round 1 and kept it until the end of the season. Prima driver Paul Aron still had a shot of winning the championship going into the final race weekend, but needed all 39 points available in the final round to do so, while also hoping Bortoleto would walk away from the weekend with no points. Needless to say, Bortoleto won the 2023 F3 championship that year. Upon winning F3, Bortoleto signed on to join McLaren's driver academy. After having won F3, Bortoleto would make the jump to F2 with Invicta Racing, where he currently sits 1st in the standings, only 4.5 points ahead of Campos driver Isaac Hadjar, with 2 race weekends left to go. If he wins F2 this season, he would be the first driver to win Formula 3 and Formula 2 in their first and only seasons and get a drive in Formula 1 the following year. The last driver to do so was Mercedes driver George Russell, who won what was GP3 in 2017 and FIA F2 in 2018, and went on to drive with Formula One team Williams in 2019. The last to win F3 and F2 in their first season was Oscar Piastri, who had to sit out a season before ultimately signing with McLaren 1 year after his F2 championship. Now, some would say Liam Lawson isn't exactly a rookie, as he has driven in a number of races over 2 separate seasons. But as this list is for drivers who will have a full-time seat for 2025, I think he qualifies. For which team, we don't know just yet, but he will be on the grid for 2025. The oldest of the quote-unquote new drivers, the 22-year-old began winning karting championships in 2014. Upon his F4 debut, he finished second for Australian side Team BRM in Australian F4 in 2017 and second for Van Amersfoort Racing in ADAC F4 in 2018. At the end of the 2018 Asian F3 Championship season, Lawson came in for the final weekend and took all wins, all fastest laps, and all pole positions, finishing 8th in the final season standings. He raced 3 of the 15 races that year and finished 8th out of 26 drivers. Granted, not all drivers participated in all rounds, but this was still impressive. In 2019, the first year GP3 became FIA F3, Lawson joined the Red Bull Junior team in his inaugural F3 season. Unfortunately, he finished a disappointing 11th at the end of the season with MP Motorsport, with his best result being second on the podium at the Monza sprint race. He also finished 7th that year at the Macau Grand Prix for MP Motorsport. Though a disappointing open-wheel year for Lawson, he did manage to win the New Zealand-based Toyota Racing Series, beating fellow countryman Marcus Armstrong by 10 points in the overall standings. 2020 saw Lawson with a new team and a better season. He managed to finish 5th in the F3 driver standings with Hi-Tech Grand Prix, finishing the season with sprint wins at the Red Bull Ring and Mugello and a feature win at Silverstone. In 2021, Lawson returned to Hi-Tech for his debut F2 season, only managing to finish 9th at the end of his campaign. One of the low points of his season being finishing first in the second sprint race at Monaco, but eventually being disqualified for a throttle map issue at the start of the race. While racing in F2, Lawson also took part in the 2021 DTM season, partnering with Alex Albon, the most handsomest, nicest driver to ever grace the F1 grid. Lawson held the championship lead heading into the final race. Unfortunately, a dirty dive down the inside of the first hairpin from championship rival Kelvin van der Linde saw his race all but over. Another championship contender, Maximilian Gotz, gained 2 easy positions via team orders, won the race, and beat Lawson in the driver standings by 3 points. Lawson vowed to leave the series after the way his final race ended. 2022 saw Lawson racing in F2 again for Carlin. Although he finished 3rd that year, he was no match for eventual champion Felipe Drogovic, who beat second-place driver Théo Pourchaire by 101 points and Lawson by 156 points. After Formula 2, Lawson went on to finish 2nd in the Japanese-based Super Formula in 2023. 2023 would also see Lawson make his F1 race debut after Daniel Ricciardo, who had just replaced an underperforming Nick de Vries, injured his wrist at Zandvoort. Lawson would come in for a few races and even managed to score 2 points at that year's Singapore Grand Prix. Ultimately, Ricciardo would come back after rehabbing his injury and Lawson would return to his reserve role with Red Bull. Fortunately for Lawson, he would replace Ricciardo again in 2024, and it remains yet to be seen whether he will be driving for VCARB or Red Bull next year, but at least he knows he will have a seat. And last but not least, Franco Colapinto. I was unsure whether I should have Colapinto on this list as well, since he technically has a full-time seat for the rest of this year, but he hasn't officially signed for a team for 2025. But it's almost certain that Red Bull will snatch him up if they are willing to shell out the £20 million that Williams are reporting to be demanding. I mean, what is £20 million to a team who used to outspend the entire midfield before the cost cap anyways? The Argentine debuted in Spanish F4 back in 2018 for Drivex School in the final race of that season. In 2019, after his father sold their home to finance the 2019 Spanish F4 season, Colapinto rewarded his father by winning the Drivers' Championship. In 21 races, Colapinto managed to win 11 races and managed to beat out Kilian Meyer in P2 by 98 points. In 2020, in his first full year of Formula Renault Eurocup, Colapinto finished 3rd driving for MP Motorsport, collecting 2 wins in the season. 2021 would be a busy year for the Argentine, collecting a 6th place finish in Formula Regional Euro Championship, a 3rd place finish in the Asian Le Mans Series, and a 4th place finish in the European Le Mans Series, where he partnered with Nick de Vries. 2022 saw Colapinto focusing only on F3, where he managed to finish 9th with sprint race wins at Imola and Monza that year. After moving from Van Amersfoort Racing to MP Motorsport for the 2023 F3 season, Colapinto finished 4th in the standings, only 7 points off 2nd place driver Zach O'Sullivan and 2 points off 3rd place driver Paul Aaron. Colapinto would make the move to F2 in 2024 after taking part in the final race weekend of the 2023 F2 season. Before the start of round 11 at Monza, Colapinto would get the call from Williams to take over the vacancy left by Logan Sargent after the American was sacked for underperforming. He would just miss out on points in his F1 debut at Monza, but managed to finish 8th at Azerbaijan at the next race weekend. After just 2 Formula 1 races, Colapinto has already managed to score more points than Logan Sargent, who managed to only score 1 point in his year and a half in Formula 1. Colapinto has continued to impress, managing to stay close to his veteran teammate at Williams and probably has the highest stock among all young drivers entering F1 for 2025. And there you have it, the 5 or 6 young drivers getting a full-time seat for Formula 1 next season. Some already have F1 experience under their belt, while others have only experienced practice sessions, and they are all entering with varying levels of hype surrounding them. Who do you think will find the most success in 2025? Be sure to let me know in the comments, and if you think I've earned it, leave a like, comment, or subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.